Everything's bigger in Texas. Stadiums, skyscrapers, rodeo, of course. And this great speedway, which not that long ago rose out of the Texas plains to give us some great racing. Dale Jr., double duty driver this weekend. He's going to be busy. Martin Truex trying to continue his string of running up front. Austin Dillon, will he be a top qualifier again this weekend? On a bright sunny day, just outside Dallas-Fort Worth, it's Sprint Cup practice. Round one of practice, and their only pre-qualifying practice round. As they roll out from the garage area. And we get ready to listen to our producer and our director and sometimes you folks and each other. Welcome to Texas with Jeff Gordon and Darrell Waltrip. I'm Mike Joy. I think the euphoria of Martinsville is still with us. Everybody's smiling and everybody's excited. But now to the business at hand, because we go from NASCAR's most action-packed track.
The slowest track.
I wouldn't call it slowest. I'd call it action-packed. We go to one of its absolute fastest on a difficult surface. And by the way, we're going to race it at night, so a lot of challenges.
Yeah, last week we were racing for a clock. This week we're what the pistols here they have for a trophy? Don't Eddie give you a bunch of 6 guns or something? Right. A bunch of fireworks going off. And when you said bigger, the first thing I thought of was Michael McDowell. And you talk about the big wreck. Remember we had this a couple of years ago qualifying, so things do happen fast and big around here.
I thought you were talking about your brother for a second there. And he was just here doing Xfinity practice. All right, we're back on a big 1.5 miles like Atlanta Motor Speedway, but different.
Well, and Mike, I like to think that we're coming off a lot of momentum from just some great racing that we've seen on these high-speed racetracks on the 1.5 miles already. Not just the great action at Martinsville, but I think of Fontana. I think back to Atlanta. I think to Las Vegas. And I think here the transitions and the speed and the abrasiveness, all the challenges that come along with this fast place, whoo, I'm ready for some Texas action.
All right. Let's get down to the garage area. Jamie Little.
Good afternoon, guys. Well, Chase Elliott is one of 3 drivers making their first start here at Texas in the Cup Series. And I talked to his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, though. He feels pretty good about it. He said this kind of track really lends itself to Chase's driving style. He likes to back up the corner, and that's something they learned running at Atlanta and Las Vegas together. On top of that, though, Chase made history. He won his first ever Xfinity Series race right here back in 2014. And also this weekend, guys, he's doing double duty, so he's getting a little bit of extra seat time to help him here in the Cup Series for the first time. Matt?
Jamie, a lot of stepping up within the 41 Stewart Haas racing team. Now, crew chief Tony Gibson not here in Texas today, but he will arrive by Saturday race time. His wife, Beth, a little under the weather back in North Carolina, so he stayed back home for a couple of days. Now, they're going through the same process they did a year ago at Bristow. Team engineer Johnny Klossmeyer will step up as the acting crew chief until Gibson's return by Saturday. And remember, they almost won at Bristow. Now, Kurt Busch told me that he will not micromanage from the cockpit. Every member on this team will just step up in a much bigger way, and they're going to take a page out of what they did at Las Vegas. Remember, they sat on the pole with this very race car, led 31 laps, almost won the race, had a little issue they tried to bounce back from, but they brought this car here, and they're going to be going in the same direction.
Thanks, Matt. Boy, a lot of cars on the track right away.
Man, in a hurry. Want to get out there and see what we got. Aero package, tires, a lot of things different coming into this into Texas this year.
And this is such a challenging 1.5 miles. The transition from these flatter straightaways compared to other tracks versus the really high bank fast corners here at Texas Motor Speedway really create a lot of challenges. You got a different aero package, different tire, a lot of things to test and try out here.
Mike, the track record here, Tony Stewart did a couple of years ago, 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
Average speed around this 1.5 mile racetrack.
Incredible. Now, most of the drivers out there have done either 1 or at most 2 laps before going back to the garage. Only Joey Logano and Kyle Busch have run more than 2 laps.
Yeah, I would say Jimmy Johnson is at the top of the chart, but was that a qualified run, or did he have a big moment and said, oh, yeah, you know, it's fast, but we need to work on it? It's hard to say. He got a little bit sideways coming off of turn 4 in that first lap, but it may have been because he was pushing so hard, making somewhat of a mock qualifying run.
I guess where you use all the aerodynamic tools you got. I mean, you know, we do have a little bit smaller rear spoil, a little less front air dam, splitter, but the side force of these cars are the same as they were, and that's huge here.
We're in Texas. That's the home of Interstate, so they are on the car as they are each time we come to this track on the number 18. Matt Kenseth, currently 16th after 4 laps. I felt so bad for Matt last weekend because that last restart there, he was on the outside, and gosh, Daytona 500 deja vu all over again. You're up on the outside, and all of a sudden it's bye-bye. But
you know what? Matt has, even he said about last week. He said, "Hey, that's racing." You know,
now here's the second to last restart where the team, sort of team orders, if you want to call it, they had a deal where Kyle would start on the outside, he'd get to the bottom, give his teammate Matt Kenseth the bottom, and everything seemed fine. Well, boy, not with 12 laps to go here on this final restart. They said they had a deal with 10 to go, so you got to think that on Monday morning in that meeting at Joe Gibbs Racing, there was definitely some deep discussions about that final restart.
But that's what I was talking about, Jeff. I mean, even at Daytona when Denny got around him to win the 500, and Sunday at Martinsville when Kyle didn't, you know, they didn't orchestrate the start like he would like for them to have. He said, "I don't hold any hard feelings towards either guy. They're just trying to win the race like I would have been."
Yeah, you can't blame Kyle Busch. Matt Kenseth, I believe, was getting ready to pass Kyle Busch. I think he had a better long-run car had that caution not come out. So you got to know that Kyle has that on his mind. And even though they're teammates and they had a deal with 10 to go, it's like, okay, it's close. And, boy, I really don't want to have to race. You know.
Jimmy Johnson out of the car after just 1 lap. You saw Paul Menard there. We'll talk about him and Austin Dillon last week.
Teammates. Yeah.
Allmendinger, wow.
He has had a heck of a day. I'm telling you, that 47 car has been fast.
Here comes Dillon.
Richard Childress Racing has picked up their program and their performance this year.
Larson to the inside. He moves to 4th. Here comes Brian Vickers, who started the race 3rd, battling Kenseth for 4th.
A.J. Allmendinger, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, Brian Vickers. I mean, these are some drivers that these finishes would be huge for their season.
And they were. All of those drivers and half a dozen more had their best finish of the year last week at Martinsville. And some of those, you know, were might-have-beens. Danica, we saw her racing for 5th, got kicked up to the outside back to 16th. That happened, boy, that happened to a lot of drivers last week.
You know, we talk a lot about the rookies this year. We've got a really exciting rookie class, Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney and Buescher and Brian Scott. But when we get to the opportunity to talk about A.J. Allmendinger and Kyle Larson and Austin Dillon, also young faces that, now A.J.'s been around for a little while, but he's got this great personality, great talent, and still has a long, bright future ahead of him. But it's nice to talk about those guys having great runs.
Absolutely. Jamie?
And A.J. Allmendinger, you can't help but love the guy. He's so emotional. I just spent some time with him up in the hauler before he got in his car for this practice. And he said last weekend was so important on so many different levels. But first and foremost, for all the guys back at the shop to know that this new way of doing things, led by Ernie Cope and crew chief Randall Burnett, that it's working. They're spending more time in the shop, and it's the little details that matter. But they're knowing now, after 2 top 10s in a row, that it's paying off. So A.J. pretty pumped up. But now reality sets in. This is not a good track for A.J. Allmendinger. So he said they're really focused on running some race simulation here to really know what they have, because Mike, they're 1 practice short of normal weekends, only 2 sessions this weekend.
A good point there, Jamie, and this is the only pre-qualifying practice. We'll have qualifying live for you tomorrow.
Guys, you know, Jamie mentioned a practice schedule, and Jeff, you and I were talking earlier today. Normally when we have a Saturday night race, there's no practice that's relative to when we're going to be racing, but it's kind of opposite here. And I think the reason we saw Jimmy Johnson, Truex, Ty Dillon, Ryan Blaney go out there and make a little practice qualifying run, this is really the only time that's relative to when they'll qualify tomorrow afternoon. The rest of this practice and tomorrow afternoon late, that's going to be more relative to race practice.
Well, Larry, the guy that owns this joint and has for the last couple of years, Jimmy Johnson, he just jumped up to fast time there, 28.60, just ahead of Martin Truex at a 64. And here's a guy that guess where he finished last year?
Second.
Second. Yeah.
Great guess.
Yeah, it's really hard. What do you have, 13 seconds or something?
I know that. Look, I know that's got to aggravate the heck out of him, you know?
You know, as soon as running second aggravates you, be careful. That's when all of a sudden you'll start running 15th and 20th.
You know, that paid off real well for Harry Gant.
It did. He did.
And all those second-place finishes before winning a Cup race, and then won a bunch.
I love listening to, especially here. Yeah, I think this might be a qualifying run. He's pretty hard on the gas there. See how he's not getting all the way out of it. You hear how he's not.
He gets out a little early, but he's wide open all the way through the corner.
He's really good at that. I watched his driver trace when I was at Hendrick Motorsports, and when he's as fast as he is all the time, you can't help but look at that information when we had access to it. And he is so good at not getting all the way out of the throttle through the corners. I think he does it as well.
Good lap, we're going back out.
Watch his throttle trace down there. He gets to turn 1 up on the right corner up there. Out of it.
Yeah.
I think
he might be coming to pit road
he's coming
here
in this time. Yeah.
But what I also like there is the banking is so steep, the compression so drastic here, and then you have these bumps, these huge bumps that compress the car into them, and you just hear the skirts touching ever so slightly.
Stay down.
Yeah, he's not on a qualifying run, so
I don't think so.
I'd say he's pretty fast. If he's 9th on the board with that first lap, he's feeling good about it.
First round of practice for the Sprint Cup Series, and the only round of practice they will have today. Jimmy Johnson quickest.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my God! Oh my God, he's freaking good!
How are you?
I freaking love you.
Give me your hat.
I love you. Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Thank you. Good to see you guys. Thank
Now
you.
that really happened. That was leaving the track, sitting in traffic last Sunday after winning the STP 500 at Martinsville. Kyle looked over, saw that the woman was wearing an M&M's cap, and said, "Hey, roll a little video on this. Watch this."
That was awesome. Samantha,
funny.
his wife, shot that video from what I understand and posted that. But I mean, you just can't script anything any better than that. You talk about having a great day. You not just for Kyle. I mean, he wins the race and then he runs into this super fan and gets this video and gets to put it on social media, which is amazing. But she ran into her, favorite driver who just won the race.
And it gets better.
Yeah.
Thomas Pope and maybe some of the other writers went and tracked her down, did a story on her. She's from Wilmington, North Carolina. And now she's going to be Kyle's guest at Bristol.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That went viral. That's just, what a great moment.
Yeah, it's been one of those weeks.
Hey, guys.
Banana and mayonnaise sandwiches and that.
Did y'all hear the dog barking?
Yeah.
I have figured it out. Kyle Busch has been on our Fox NASCAR conference call for the last 15 years.
It reminded me of that commercial.
Yeah.
They should have told him about the minor bird.
So for all of you who drove home from Martinsville with your windows up, listening to satellite radio, see what you missed. Missed opportunity there.
I was listening.
Let's get back to the garage.
Well, Ryan Blaney was a rookie last week at Martinsville, but this week, this is going to be your third start already. So how do you approach this first and only practice session of the day, Ryan?
Well, it's nice to come back to a track where I've been to a little bit in these Cup cars. Even though the whole package is different, you have a little bit of experience in it. So our plan this session is really just running all qualifying trim, and that's what we were the first run, and honestly it wasn't very good, to be honest with you. So we're working hard to get it a little bit better, but Texas has always been pretty good for us, and it's one of my favorite tracks. So hopefully we get this Motorcraft Quick Lane Ford Fusion tuned up and ready to go for qualifying tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Ryan. His best finish here, 42nd. He can only get better from there, Mike.
Well, that's, that was one and done early, I think.
Well, that's why he said it's been pretty good to him. He finished 42nd and 43rd here last year. He blew up in one race. I'm not sure what happened in the other one.
So let's get an update on Joey Logano from Matt.
Former Texas winner Logano pulling his 22 back into his garage stall. He's made 2 runs during this practice session. He is in race setup. The previous run, they made a shock change across the front on this 22. The car just way too free on entry. Now, what some teams, including Joey, do on the right side skirt, they'll screw in a metal tab. That way they can gauge travel when the car does take a set when it goes into the corners. But right now, the car's still free on entry and a little free on exit.
Yeah, I would even look at this whole right side of this skirt here, and you saw where it had grinded on the racetrack, and they try to get the heights right, but they actually want the track to do a little bit of the work for them as well, and get an idea with that tab.
You want it to rub, but you don't want it to be dragging. You want to just get down there and be right on top of the track.
And I know some teams last year were taking that tab, and they basically made it real long, so when it hit, it would fold back and actually extend the skirt, and started to become a little bit of
Imagine
you're talking about the details that the teams are looking at.
Oh, yeah.
But I saw with that tab, it looks like NASCAR's gotten control of those tabs. They kept it nice and round and short.
So you're saying there could have been an advantage there with that little tab?
Well, yeah, they're just having it roll around so it extends the skirt, makes it a little bit longer, even though it's maybe a 1/4 inch wide. They thought, hey, we'll take all we can get.
I know, isn't that amazing though? That little tab, that little bit right there, and it's worth something.
Yeah.
Danica 29th right now, 29.64 or 29.63.
Man, she was
the quickest of 7 laps.
She was doing so good last week. Ran the top 10 there for a while, and in the top 15 almost the whole race.
But that Martinsville suits her driving style. It's very much a rhythm racetrack of.
Super loose center ass. Entry was tighter. I was actually tight on entry. I hit the skirts too hard in the middle of 1 and 2, and it took the car out of the track, and then the whole thing was really out of the track. It's like it made the front pop up, and then the whole car came out of the track, front and rear.
But that's good feedback. I can remember it hadn't been too long ago that she wasn't that detail oriented. She couldn't really help the crew that much figure out what was wrong with the car. That was good information right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail right there.
Jimmy Johnson still quickest. Martin Truex, Ty Dillon, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, the Fast 5. Baseball's back tonight right here on FS1. 2 great games. Prince Fielder and the Rangers, who've allowed 19 runs over their last 2 games versus Seattle, take on Mike Trout and the Angels. Saturday, one of baseball's biggest rivalries. Dodgers, Giants, all on America's home for baseball all season long. FS1 or watch live on Fox Sports Go. Clayton Kershaw, Dodgers starter, grew up in Dallas, went to Highland Park High here.
Still loose off of turn 4, but it sort of drives like it's got a ton of wedge in it. It's trying to slip the right rear, but it's also driving from the left rear straight through the race car, like trying to drive the front across the racetrack with the throttle, when to use the throttle. Whereas I thought it was a bit turned better off the corner before. We just need to hook the back up a little bit once we fix how we get into the corner better.
So what's happening there?
Well, good luck, Greg. I was trying to fix that as the first.
I think that's 10-4.
But again, this place, the way the transitions are, and the difference between turns 3 and 4 versus 1 and 2, and how the car loads, and plus these teams are doing a bunch of crazy things in the back of these cars that it's hard to keep up with. But it sounds to me like the car turns, it gets a little bit free, and then as he corrects it, it sort of dumps on the left rear, gets in that wedge, and then drives it to tight up off the corner. Turn 4 is a really challenging corner here. The car, it's really, really loose. Now, talk about loose. He just went up the racetrack right there. Looked like it turned a little bit earlier as he landed in the corner. Maybe he hit that bump, and it seemed to really knock him up the racetrack right there. I think I was going to say turn 4 is challenging. Every part of this race, I'm telling you, this is one of the toughest mile and a halves that I've ever been on. It is, but I like that. I like that. I like how challenging this track is. But boy, when you don't have it right here, it is a handful. It is not fun. This is one of the places where they call it happy hour. I've never been in happy hour here. I've run good in the race, but I don't remember ever having a happy last final practice.
As a matter of fact, I think it could be one of your worst racetracks because you've had a lot of things happen to you here.
Well, I had some great performances here early on when they first built this racetrack. And then had some really bad things.
Had a really hard wreck right here on the front straightaway one time.
Yeah, I think I was leading or running second. Got caught up in a lap accident. Ernie Irvin, I think, was trying to make up his lap. He was fast too that day. Got caught up in that. Had a blown right front. Yeah, I had maybe a little scuffle here and there. I don't. You know.
Got shoved up out of the way a time or two. People have just abused you here.
I'm quite certain at some point this weekend we're going to see video of these things.
All right, we'll continue that discussion after we hear
no, do we have to?
Well, just for aftermath.
Thank you, Matt, for saving me.
I tried, Jeff. I tried. Now, Kurt Busch currently 16th on the board. Now, we documented earlier that Johnny Klausmeyer is filling in today for Tony Gibson, who will be here by race time. So, overall, is this a great example, just the depth of the team and how everyone steps up in a situation like this, Kurt?
Well, it's a good way to gauge how well we're prepared for situations like this. And Tony Gibson's a great leader, and everybody's ready to step up when he's gone, and everybody's ready to step up when anybody's gone. We had a guy, the tire guy last year at Loudon, wasn't feeling well, and things that come up out of the norm or out of the blue, you got to be ready for it. And so Monster Energy, Haas Automation, all the sponsors on this team, everybody expects the best, and we have to deliver our best no matter what happens. So this weekend's a little warm out. When I landed in Texas, I felt like that summer came early, and Goodyear tires, they're a little bit softer, and we're sliding around a little bit more way earlier than we expected. So we'll get her dialed in. You come off the truck here from simulation, and then you got to go off of driver, crew chief, lead engineer combo. So with one guy missing, Johnny and I will get it sorted out, but we got a great group of guys, love everybody, and we'll now switch over to Q trim. Right now we're pretty loose in race trim.
And this is a new tire that Goodyear brought here both on the left and right sides. Jamie?
Ty Dillon third on the board after one lap there. You guys are focusing on qualifying, but it's your first time here in the Cup Series. However, you did win a Truck Series race here back in 2013. How does that help you?
It always helps having the confidence knowing that you've won at a racetrack, that you know what it takes to get to victory lane here. But it's pretty cool to unload with our next 24-hour Chevrolet. Todd Parrott and the guys have really given me a fast car. It's cool to unload and be right there with Jimmy Johnson at Texas Motor Speedway. So I know these guys will continue to get faster. We got to keep working, but we definitely unloaded fast, so that's something to be excited about. We've been fast in both series, so good start to our weekend at a track that I have a lot of confidence at.
All right, Ty Dillon in the 95 this weekend. He'll be back in the 14 subbing for Tony Stewart next week.
Yeah, he mentioned his crew chief, Todd Parrott. He won here in 2001 with Dale Jarrett. He won here in 2004 with Elliott Sadler.
That is a beautiful example of composition, looking at that wheel through the lug nut hole, through the center of the rim. Attaboy, Brad Hutton. Way to go, Goat. Goat as in greatest of all time.
That's
Not
right.
Like those things Hammond has down on the farm.
I've known some of those.
Okay. You know, we were talking about the challenges of Texas. Why Texas? Why not Atlanta? Why not Las Vegas? Why not Charlotte? Why not all the other of what people disparagingly call the cookie cutter mile-and-a-half tracks? What makes this one so hard?
Well, what we sometimes lose sight of is measuring these tracks from where the banking starts at the end of a straightaway versus where it ends on the next straightaway and the length of the straightaways. You get into some of that, but to get into the real detail, to me, these corners are pretty tight, but they're very banked. There's big load. And then the straightaway, look at this transition. Look how it flattens out. No other mile-and-a-half track do we have that the straightaways are this flat and the corners are that banked. And that really, not to mention the surface is more abrasive, and there's some huge bumps here. So you add all those things together.
Yeah, Mike, watch the car. Watch the car. And when the car goes into the banking, you don't see the number now. You don't see the number on the roof now. But when that car goes up into the banking, that number's staring you right in the face. So that tells you there's a lot of banking. When these cars our cars have always loved banking, high banked racetracks, because they're big and they're heavy. And so they needed the banking to hold them in place, to make them go fast. And this joint's banked up pretty good. You see that number on the top of that car, when it's turned up in your face, you know you're deep into the banks.
And when you see the back end slide out like that off of turn 4, that tells you a lot about that transition I talked about. See Casey Kane here working off of turn 4 right on the white line. You can see his hands just working left to right, left to right.
That's a drift.
That right there, yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it. It's a drift. That's not a big, huge moment. He actually said, yeah, I don't mind carrying this right out to the wall. He doesn't even have to lift the throttle right there. But what I can see is he's working hard inside there.
Yeah.
And it's going to get harder and harder as the tires fall off. We heard some of the drivers talking about how this tire is really going to fall off fast.
Matt?
Mike, Denny Hamlin has climbed from the 11 car. Now, a great advantage. You can see the winner's sticker along the roof rail, and simply because he is in the chase when the playoffs start. They've turned this session into basically an experimental session, trying different ideas and setup. Denny not pleased with the direction that they've gone, so now they are switching over to qualifying setup. They've taken the cool air box out. That's about an 8-pound savings. A lot of people ask, what are some of the differences between race and qualifying setup or the package? And that is indeed one of them. But they're making that swap over now. Denny will climb back in. He's 18th on the board.
I just don't like that attitude that we're in the chase. I think you got to put that, okay, you're in the chase, good, that's good to know, but we got to keep doing what got us in the chase.
See, I see all the advantages that come along with this being a test session. When were you ever able to do that? Now, I agree with you, DW, it can bite them.
Yeah.
They get themselves out of their rhythm.
Well, they do. I mean, this is a chase race.
Well, let's listen to what Denny said after his first run.
The front still do not work. Definitely get a lot of air up under the car on exit, or just lack of mechanical grip on exit, especially over 4. Still really tight landing, 1 and 2. Still very tight initial throttle.
So good information.
This is why so many cars are on track. Why these teams are working so hard, because between the aerodynamics of the car now, this car has less front downforce with a smaller splitter and less front downforce with the new aero package. There's less front downforce pushing that front of the car to hold it to the racetrack through that transition. And I talk about those transitions, and I'll talk about it a lot this weekend. As you go into that transition, you want it to follow the banking. Well, if it doesn't follow it perfectly, it gets air packed up underneath the front of the car, makes the car really get lazy as it gets into the corner until it lands in the banking. When it lands in the banking, all of a sudden it wants to turn real sharp again. Yeah,
and that landing, it literally lands. When it comes out off of the travel here or down the back straightaway into that banking, particularly turn 1, the car gets a little light feeling as you go down into turn 1, and you literally go down in there, and when the car gets to the bottom of that banking, bam, it lands hard.
Yeah, some people call it landing, some people call it compression when everything compresses. The same thing that happens on entry happens exact opposite way on exit as you come to that flat back straightaway or front straightaway.
Yeah, you run out of banking.
So here's, you saw Ty Dillon in the 95, entered by Circle Sport, Levine Family Racing, but certainly supported by Richard Childress Racing. Not so much as an alliance, as I believe they took Circle Sport's numbers and radio frequency and everything else they needed to go along with the package that RCR brought for Ty to run here.
Pretty good chance that this 95 car is a full-blown Richard Childress effort.
He and Jimmy Johnson both had a pretty sizable drop-off from their first to their second run here. Here are your Fast 5 in the opening round of Sprint Cup practice. All of those fastest laps were set on the first lap of the day for each of those drivers. AJ Allmendinger coming off a second-place finish, and don't know if any soccer teams were calling after this shot, although we learned later in his Twitter feed that he rehearsed that punt of Michael Waltrip's cap to make sure he got it right.
Don't tell us. No,
I was going to say, I thought he missed his calling. I mean, he's a great race car driver, but maybe football, soccer.
He nailed it, Jamie.
He did nail it, and he just said, thank goodness I didn't whiff on it. So I think we should just have Michael stop by you every time, because apparently it was good luck.
Yeah, I mean, he knows I'm pretty high on my Butterfingers. Like, he tried to come over there with that M&M's hat, and I had none of it. So, you know, everybody watching at home, it's all about Butterfinger, okay? But no, I found it kind of funny that we were the two racing together because I kicked it right at his car. So it was just a great weekend last weekend. And the great thing about NASCAR, you show up to a different racetrack and it's completely different.
Totally humbling. So you turned 17 laps, you're 17th on the board. Different aero package here, different tire. What are you experiencing so far?
This is about as slick as I've ever felt around Texas. So, you know, we went out there and we did a couple of race runs. So we got the Kroger Bush's Bean Chevy. Okay, it's not fantastic. I don't know how great it's supposed to feel because it's a handful already. So 500 miles around here is going to be a lot of fun. But we checked a couple things off the list we want to do today. Go put it in Q trim, see what kind of speed it's got.
All the feedback from these drivers. I can't wait to see what happens in qualifying tomorrow, Mike.
No kidding. Now, he said this racetrack's very, very slick, and Jeff goes, yeah.
I love it.
Well, I'm excited, one, to cover it from up here, and I'm also excited I'm not down there slipping and sliding
There
around.
you go.
But Mike, Jeff mentioned air under the car. I think if you look at the flags in the infield, and if we have our wind gauge up somewhere, we got an incredible tailwind going into turn one. So you're going to get a really nice push into one. But when you turn up off of turn two back there, then you've got a huge headwind, and that can mess with the car a little bit as well.
We were talking about Michael McDowell's qualifying crash, and indeed, wind was a big factor that day.
It was. I
Gust
think
to 50.
I think we had a tailwind, and he got into turn one like he hadn't gotten into turn one all day. Unfortunately, he didn't make it, but he got in there good.
That was one of the craziest wrecks I've ever witnessed. To see him walk out of that was just unbelievable. But I remember that day, and when that happened, I questioned, you know, the wind and how it was affecting the cars, and the wind. Again, I talk about these transitions. It really affects these cars here as much or more than anywhere.
Yeah, listen to this thing, because we didn't do anything. This is raw sound.
And he walked away.
You could hear the spring. Yeah. One of the springs came out of the car, and that's what was making that clanging sound at the end.
He's a pretty big guy. He's a tall guy, and he rode that thing right out and jumped out there and raced the next day.
I mean, just watching that there, and I've seen it 100 times. It's still just breathtaking. It makes me cringe.
Yes.
I can imagine going along for that ride.
Nope. Well, let's turn to happier thoughts.
Yes.
And Matt.
Jeff, you and Darrell both have experienced those moments where you've given a fan a special item or a special moment, and Kyle Busch did that on the way home. What did it mean for you when you saw that fan over there and your wife Samantha did video it for that special moment that you gave a fan? What's it mean to you?
Just exciting, you know. I mean, when I first started talking to her, just sup, I wasn't sure what to expect, but as soon as it started to escalate, it certainly got pretty fun. And you know, it's just all about trying to be able to give back to the fans a little bit. I saw her wearing my hat, figured she was a Kyle Busch fan, and you know, had a lot of fun with it. So certainly we didn't expect all the attention that it's gotten over the last few days, but you know, nonetheless, it certainly is fun when you get some reaction like that from some fans. And I'm sure there could be some way different reactions depending on the sort of hat that person may be wearing than the car next to you, and maybe we'll get some of those down the road.
How do you approach this practice session? What's the agenda?
Good question. Try to get a baseline, try to figure out kind of what you got in race trim, feel it out a little bit, swap over to qualifying trim, which is what we're doing right now, and then try to lay down some fast lap times, get ready for qualifying. But you know, the real true test is just after qualifying, trying to get ready for the race and all of that stuff. But you know, we'll see how it goes. The Interstate Batteries Camry always tends to run well here at Texas, especially excited for it with Norm Miller and Interstate's hometown here, so we'll give it our best.
One from the pole here in 2013.
Sometime last week, tick-tock. The clock got delivered. It goes to every Martinsville winner. I would guess they delivered 2. After all, he swept the weekend.
Some assembly required.
No change in your Fast Five. 2 Chevys, 2 Fords, and Martin Truex's Toyota. Followed by Kyle Busch, Dillon, Kozlowski, Kane, and Harvick. Your top 10. Here's Eric Almirola, who is 13th fastest.
We've had some cars go back out and make a second run, and we're definitely seeing some pretty big fall off in the amount of grip. And I anticipated that. I love what Goodyear's done on the 1.5 miles this year, especially where they've gotten more aggressive with the grip of the tire. We're seeing, what they're calling the traction zone, where they're softening up the compound, making some other changes in the construction to try to help durability as well as grip. And what's going to happen is we're going to see more fall off. The grip is going to be really good at in the first lap of the first few corners, but it's going to fall off fast, and that's going to happen in qualifying trim and race trim.
You know, one guy that's run quite a few laps, Joey Logano, he's 4th quick, but he's run 20 laps. I think they're probably still a little confused from last week, because I saw some of the boys this morning, and they said, we don't know what happened to that car. We thought we were going to be pretty good, and the car just never reacted the way it was supposed to.
Whoa, here's Kyle Larson jumping up into the Fast Five. 5th quickest.
P5 at a 28.84.
Good for him. He and Chad Johnson, I think they're starting to come together as a driver crew chief.
The bottom a little bit there. 1 2. Entry middle was okay. Little loose exit. 3 and 4 entry.
Yeah, you can hear him giving all the details. You know, the driver has to be fully connected to that race car, and every corner of the race car, the tires as they meet the racetrack. And I love hearing these race car drivers get in there and describe all the things, and everybody describes it different, as we've recognized before. But he was really getting detailed into every area of the corner, the entry, the middle, landing, over the bumps, the exit. That's really great information.
Yeah, you can't run telemetry once we're here for the race weekend. But I think what that really helps the crew chief do, Jeff, is he takes that feedback from the driver. He looks at his simulation that he came here with, and he tries to figure out, okay, here's where the car is. We know where we got here because we had it all set up according to the sim. And then the driver gives that little bit of feedback where they can tweak on that car to customize it to the driver feel. And I think that's when you really get a good combination.
And we've heard some conversations about, and some drivers bring up simulation. And a lot of these teams now go to computer programs and software that give them simulated runs and adjustments. They can make a spring adjustment, put it in the computer, and it shows them about what it's going to do. But the real true computer is that driver.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about our sport. And we, with these types of race cars, that's why the most talented drivers are driving these race cars, because it takes such a skilled driver that can really communicate well. Look at Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski really giving hand signals and details about what the car is doing to their crew chiefs.
He looked like he had a loose wheel to me. I'm not sure what was going on there. But, one thing that I know when the sim is good is when we just came from Martinsville, half-mile racetrack. Jimmy Johnson rolled out. His first lap was his fastest lap so far today. That means that the sim was close. It did what they thought it would do. And Jimmy Johnson has all the confidence in the world that car is going to do what he thinks it's going to do. I think that's when you have your simulation pretty darn good.
Yeah, and all that simulation, that's tire data, shock data, springs, aerodynamics. It's just a combination of everything put in there.
Now both Dillon brothers in the Fast Five now. Austin just ran the 3rd fastest lap of the day. Jimmy Johnson dominant at Texas.
Great work, everybody. Thank you.
Over 1,000 laps led here. 19 top 10s. And 6 times he's gotten to fire off the 6-shooters. Pretty impressive.
It just seems like when he and Chad figure out a place like they do Dover, and certainly here going for 4 wins in a row now, they can back it up. They can repeat it no matter what the situation is.
5 of the last 7 races. Hey, new fast cat in town. In fact, 2 of them have gone quicker than Jimmy Johnson just now. Kyle Busch now 2nd, and Carl Edwards fastest.
And talking about Jimmy, just thought about something that Jeff told me not 2 or 3 years ago. We were talking about his car. I said, Jeff, that car is incredible. I can't believe the way that thing looks around, going around the racetrack. And he looked at me as serious as he could be, and he said, how do you know it's a car?
I think the whole combination is pretty impressive.
Sure is. Matt?
Mike, Austin Dillon impressive during this practice session. So in qualifying setup, what was the approach and the game plan you guys had for simulating qualifying?
Truthfully, we just wanted to use one set of tires because of how Texas really eats up tires in the race. So we came here, wanted to do a qualifying. We actually missed our travels the first 2 runs. That was our 3rd run on tires, so we're really happy with that as our 3rd run. And I think if we have to go and run one more run here with the correct travels on the first set, just to know what we have going into qualifying on our first round, we might, but we're going to see what people do here as they strap on tires. I think the Dow Chevy's good now. We just missed a little bit coming here, and proud of my guys to what they've done to turn it around.
At this moment, he's currently 5th on the board. Jamie?
Chase Elliott's turned the most laps so far, 24. And Chase, with this being your first time in Cup here, how do you approach this first practice session, especially because you just got out of your Xfinity car?
Yeah, I think you approach it just like any of the other ones, honestly. Let Ricky get backed out there, but yeah, I don't think you approach it any differently. I mean, for us, we've tried to take our Friday, or today being Thursday, but normally Friday practices and start off in race trim for a little while, as long as we can, to give ourselves enough time to swap over to qualifying trim. So that's been our plan today, and just trying to learn as what we can, and then try to swap over and have enough time to make a few runs from there.
Do you feel like you made any improvements?
I hope. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just me trying to figure out where I need to be and what I feel like the car needs to drive like to be good on Saturday night. So, this is a different racetrack from day to night. I think it'll have a good bit more grip at night. I know the fall race in the Xfinity Series was pretty slick with the sunshine on it. So I think, qualifying in the daytime will be something different too that we'll see tomorrow afternoon. So it'll be interesting.
All right, Chase Elliott, they're swapping over right now. Going to practice some qualifying coming up.
Thanks, Jamie. A lot of folks doing just that. A.J. Allmendinger. Oh, there's a better look at that shot. Yeah, that looks great. A little carbon fiber ductwork there, just a little bit in the lower right corner. But AJ just ran the 5th best lap of the day.
Hope he can see better out that windshield on weekend.
Oh, wait till tonight. Just a little glare.
Yeah, at nighttime that thing's going to look good. Got a little piece of the digital dash there. We're going to see the wind moving that window net around. Yeah. That's good stuff right there. Good job, fellas.
Yeah, thank you to the folks at BSI and also to the 47 team for working with us there. Kurt Busch now 5th. Did you know Texas Motor Speedway is the first sporting facility, they claim, in America to have their own beer?
Pardon?
No Limits is the brand name, and the name of the beer is Checkered Past.
And that's exclusive to the Texas Motor Speedway.
Exclusive to the Texas Motor Speedway.
Well, when we're visiting with Eddie Gossage, we'll have
tomorrow.
No, man. We're having breakfast.
No, I
said we're having beer for breakfast.
I didn't mean we're going to have. I thought we're going to ask him about it.
Yeah, I'm not one of them, but we are in No Limits, Texas, according to Eddie.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Mike Zizzo and the folks here. Today is National Beer Day, just by coincidence. Do you know how many billion gallons of beer Americans consume each year?
Are we talking about at NASCAR races?
Yeah, probably just 6 billion gallons. And beer sales bring in $8 billion in tax revenue to the states each year. We all do our part.
Yes. Yes, we do.
You know what I told Jeff last week when we went to Clarence's, and they don't serve alcohol beverages there.
Or let you bring your own.
Or you can't bring your own. I told Jeff, difference in me and you, your era and my era, we had wine for dinner, and you have wine with dinner.
Okay.
Big difference.
We like it either way.
Either way works for me.
Trevor Bayne to 3rd, behind Carl Edwards and Kyle Busch, ahead of Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex in the Fast 5. NASCAR goes under the lights tomorrow night, right here on FS1 with the Xfinity Series race. Carl Edwards will join the boys in the booth. And then on Saturday, Sprint Cup Racing, sponsored by KFC, Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox, or you can watch live on Fox Sports Go.
Mike, did you look at the top of the chart?
Well, that's what I'm looking at right there. Joe Gibbs Racing.
Look at that.
I tell you, if I'm down in the garage area, I'm looking at that too, and it just went straight to my head. I mean, you talk about a psychological advantage, not just a performance advantage. Wow, these Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas are fast.
Yeah, well, Trevor Bain's 5th. By the way, he made his 100th start last week at Martinsville. Yep. I know he didn't have the greatest of days, wrecked his car in practice, but he started his 100th race last week at Martinsville.
So the 4.5 Gibbs cars, counting Truex, are 1st through 4th and 8th. Wow, that's a statement right there.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's when you wish that there was about 4 seconds left in practice. you wanted to end just like that, not 24 minutes left.
28:30 on Kansas, 28:43, 48, and 52 on the other 3. Mm-hmm. So the other 3 are pretty close. Kansas got about a 10th in the bank over everybody else.
Yeah, that's
whenever you're ready.
I said Truex is 8th. We're not even sure if he's made a qualifying run. He's only run 5 laps. His first of those was the quickest.
Yeah, we don't know if he's gone back out. Those others made some laps, then they put new tires on, and you can see the track being shaded right here on the right. It's going to get faster and faster and faster in this practice. And you got to remember, they're qualifying at 1:30 tomorrow, 1:45. So the sun's going to be out pretty bright. It'll be a little bit slightly different conditions tomorrow when they go to qualifying. Now, I was going to say right here, look at Junior up high. This is him getting the momentum coming to the line. So this is a qualifying run. Big bump right there. Car really gets out of control. Let's listen to this.
Okay, that was a high middle.
Whoa.
Not good.
Well, look at the drag. It looks like when he jumped back in the gas, he had to come back out of it just for a second. I'm not sure, though. Looked all right, though.
Whoa,
got a little bit of wander to it.
Not going to be real happy with this
loose at 3 and 4 for sure. Very loose.
Not good.
Up to 16th.
When you got to get out of the gas the way he did all down here in turns 1 and 2, that takes a lot of speed out of your lap. Let's look at it again.
You got to jump hard back into the throttle. We heard Harvick not even get all the way out, but he jumps back in the throttle, and you can see it step out there.
Right at the bump, the tunnel bump.
Yeah, and this is why I like riding along with the driver inside, because it's a lot more dramatic inside the car than it looks from outside. But it's going to do it again here.
It'll make you take a deep breath, I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, and here it's so fast. You got to be fully committed if you're going to be on the pole or qualify really good.
He's fighting with that car all the way around, really. Loose in 1 and 2, pushing loose off 4.
Did you not find it interesting that the spotter was talking to the crew
I thought the same thing,
Jeff. Making the run?
I thought the same thing. I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean, if he was on a digital channel, I can understand it, but he was on their channel.
I'd be telling him, leave me alone.
Yeah, TJ Majors.
But TJ is so good.
Ah, okay.
Okay, and I'm told that we hear both channels. We monitor both channels. That may have been a channel just between spotter and crew chief.
Yeah, he may have been giving that information to the crew chief so he could know where the car was and what he was doing.
Yeah, we were laying it over because that'd be a huge distraction to the driver. You don't want to hear that in the car.
Well, let's see if Martin Truex is on a qualifying lap. We're told Casey Kane went out on stickers and is going to try to improve on 18th. Here's Truex.
It's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be pretty good.
Jumped him up.
Oh my goodness.
Fourth on Truex.
Pretty good.
So now it's a royal flush, top of the board. 5 Toyotas right in order, numerically more or less. Matt?
Mike, Huntersville, North Carolina, Joe Gibbs Racing flavor there, the top 5. And indeed, Martin Truex Jr., this is his 4th run on this set of tires in qualifying setup.
Whoa.
Oh, so you mean those were not stickers?
4th run on the same set?
Wow. He must be planning on making it all the way to the end.
That's impressive.
Qualifying tomorrow.
Wow. Well, it's become a Toyota kind of day. Have a look at your Fast 5 there. How quickly things change. Ryan Newman busted into the top 5 but didn't stay there long. Greg Biffle is now the fastest driver in Texas. His number 16 Ford, 28-23. And Brian Vickers is in the Fast 5, third at a 28:33.
You know, there was a time when Biffle, I mean, when it wouldn't be a surprise for him to run that fast on these mile and a halves, because he was pretty strong on these mile and a halves there at one time.
Well, he had the pole here in the fall of 2011. And his teammates, David Reagan and Matt Kenseth, started right with him. 1, 2, 3 for the Roush cars 5 years ago here.
Now I look for this team and the 22 team to be a real threat for the pole. Brad Keselowski sat on the pole when we were here in November.
Sounded like he got back in the throttle really well. Yes, sir.
Now it's Ford day.
he got back in it real good.
Yeah,
Ford has the first two.
I mean, the track is obviously getting faster and faster.
Top of the board, Biffle run at 23, P3 the 30.
The track temperature starting to go down, sun's starting to set, and you can see a lot of good speeds that are being put up there now.
So Ty Dillon back into the Fast 5. So now there's only one Toyota there, and it's Matt Kenseth. 2 Fords in front of him and 2 Chevys behind him.
Look, this is Joey Logano coming to the line. Like Jeff said, he's up high getting that momentum off of turn 4 there. But watch his eyes and watch his hands. This car is driving really good. He's not having to snatch the wheel around. Pretty smooth down into turn 1. Just a little bit of work in the wheel, playing the throttle.
Well, that's not much feed, much movement in the wheel. I thought that looked really, really good.
Nice
I wish
smooth.
we could see his eyes, because I'm telling you, you got to be focused when you're making a qualifying lap around Texas Motor Speedway.
I saw his eyes, and one great
bit
big
of movement there as he comes off of turn 4, which is not uncommon.
Pretty smooth though.
Lots of room out back.
Second.
And now it's 3 Fords at the top of the board.
It's a battle among manufacturers. I love it.
Yeah. 3 Fords,
what were you saying
Kenseth's
about his
Toyota,
eyes?
and Vickers Chevrolet.
Those 2 eyes were one great big one. He was staring at that thing.
Yeah. I can remember racetracks like this, Talladega, where you got to focus in your mirror. Your eyes just hurt after the race. It's painful because you're staring at things so intently.
They used to tell me, he said, you got to hold it wide open. I said, I ain't your man.
All right,
get somebody else.
No bright sunshine on the track right now. Business is picking up. Well, business has picked up. Chase Elliott jumped to 6th, Jimmy Johnson to 3rd. And suddenly there's only one Toyota left in the top 10, and that's Matt Kenseth. That's how quick it turns around
I'll
here.
tell you, it's crazy how quickly these times are changing.
Yeah, I'd like to see them go back out and make another run now that they've had a chance to run at it, and the track's cooling down and continues to get faster. But yeah, I thought when those guys ran those laps, I'm like, wow, I don't think anybody's going to get to it. And they just kept falling and falling and falling.
Well, you know what's interesting, though? We're hearing that not everybody's on new tires. They're going back out on some scuffs.
Well, and I think that tells you about the grip level on the track right now as it cools down.
Paul Menard to 12th with that run. Kevin Harvick to 13th.
And actually, Kyle Busch just finished another run, I'm assuming on the same tires, and almost matched what he had previously run, but didn't pick it up. So crazy that he's all the way down in 17th now.
Regan Smith, 30th. Debuting a new sponsor, Fire Alarm Services.
Hurry back so we can get some fresh ones on for you. Just let me know how you felt there.
There you go. You're going to put some fresh tires on him.
Well, and a lot of times what the teams will do, if they're in race trim, they switch over to qualifying trim. They don't want to use up that brand new set of tires. They're trying to conserve their sets. So they'll go make a qualifying run and just get a basic feel for it on cooler tires. And then what they'll do is put brand new tires on, make all their adjustments, and get the most out of it.
Kurt Busch climbed a couple of spots to 16th. Austin Dillon on a flyer, currently 24th. Whoa, jumps to 3rd. Fastest Chevrolet.
The guys have got it going on right now. They got the momentum on their side, and they are taking advantage of it.
Remember, he was on the pole in Fontana.
Yep.
So they have a fast race car on these big racetracks like this, and an abrasive racetrack.
I love what he said after the race, though, in Martinsville. He said, I got to learn to control my mouth a little bit.
I hope he doesn't.
I get too wound up.
I hope he never does.
Well,
we love it.
I agree with you, but
as long as he's getting results,
he
keep
does
doing what
realize
he's doing.
Let's make a note when we talk to Eddie Gossage tomorrow. 5 p.m. would be a great time to have qualifying.
Oh my gosh, no kidding!
The track keeps getting quicker.
The strategy that would be involved in when cars go out, they go back out, they might pick up some time.
And it's right in the beer house.
Yes, the
beer 30.
Checker Pass beer.
It's 5 o'clock.
You know what they have up on the second floor? We've been talking about it for years, and finally somebody built one.
No.
The track bar.
Oh, great. Great.
That's what they call it.
Every racetrack should have a track bar.
Well, that's what they have.
They have 40 of them down the garage.
Right.
Yeah, I like an adjustable track bar myself.
Danica Patrick to 15th. Eric Almirola to 10th.
Yeah, we're got about 9 more minutes of practice here.
And Matt Kenseth on a flyer. He's the only Toyota left in the top 10, and he is 7th right now.
And he was a little quicker than the other ones a little bit ago.
But he ran his lap later than the other guys did by about 5 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Matt went up a little bit in turns 1 and 2 and sort of was in the middle of the racetrack. I don't know if maybe he decided to abandon that lap. He didn't like what he felt down there, but he didn't finish it.
Dale Jr. is 31st right now.
Let's see if he can stay in it this time. There you go.
He hesitated a little bit before he got wide open that time.
He jumped right back in it. He didn't play around with it. He got in it pretty good that time. See if it does what it does here in 3 and 4. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a lot better. We had to play with it a little bit there, but I think this is going to be a big improvement over what he had the last time.
Knowledge is such a great thing when you have experience from the previous run.
21st.
Gained a tad.
And here comes Denny Hamlin trying to improve on 18th and jumps to 12th. 8 minutes to go in this session. And right now the Fast Five is 3 Fords and 2 Chevrolets. Brian Vickers has jumped up into the Fast Five, changing the balance of power somewhat. Jimmy Johnson currently 5th. 3 Chevys in the Fast Five, 5 in the top 10, along with 4 Fords and Matt Kenseth's Toyota. That lap about half a second slower for Johnson.
But you know what I'm watching with Jimmy? I think they're thinking of round 2, round 3.
I think it's pretty good, Jimmy, for those tires, but.
Yeah, I see. Here's what.
I've got some knowledge too.
Got some knowledge.
Sorry, Jimmy, I hate to call you out on this, but I just watched Jimmy. What they did, they went out and made a run. They come back out on the same tires, cooled down as if it were going to be round 2 or a second time out. He's running a different groove. He's getting a feel for it. They're making adjustments. Really, really smart way for them to end this practice. And, he said, I gained some knowledge. I think that knowledge was what the feel was and a different line that might give me a good lap time in round 2.
Yep.
Ryan Blaney 8th with that run. 4 Fords in the top 10 now.
He was in Blaney last week, ran in the top 10, 12, almost 2/3 of the race. And he fell back a little bit there at the end. He and Chase finished 19th and 20th, but they still had good days.
I'm sorry, Martinsville still is one of the toughest places on rookies.
It is.
So now you've got Keselowski and Logano fastest. Dillon, Vickers, Johnson, 3 Chevys from 3 different camps, 3, 4, 5.
I think what we're seeing, though, Jeff, we're seeing some life in these tires. I mean, I think you can go out and make a run, and come in and go back out and still maintain good speed.
It always blows me away how these teams are capable of finding that speed when they really need it. Every time I think, oh, it's an abrasive racetrack, there's no way they're going to go out and go faster the second time out. I remember we saw this at Atlanta. They went faster. So never cease to amaze. They've got great ways of doing that with cooling the tires down and air pressure and adjustments.
You saw Ryan Newman go to 12th. This just in, new baby in the Newman household this week.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, wait a minute. A baby bull calf was born on the farm. Born on the farm this week.
Hey, this isn't
That's what I meant. Man. Congratulations.
That's right. Russell's been waiting all day to pull that one on you.
Oh, man.
Well,
you could have got me last week easily on April Fool's, too.
Allmendinger's 6th.
Hey, now. That's pretty nice.
That's pretty sporty.
I think he's, even though it was Martinsville and it's a short track, completely different than this, I just think that this group right here and AJ, he's got more confidence. He's got, they're more comfortable, and I think they're making better choices and decisions because of it.
I think they got a few more people over there too that have really turned things around. It's made a big difference.
Yeah, you're right.
Crew chief, and a lot of people changes over there at that 47 team.
Carl Edwards backs up his lap from earlier, but stays 19th. Casey Kane to 11th. And we're about 2 minutes from the end of the session. Chase Elliott currently 12th.
See that car moving around left side, going over those bumps.
But Jeff, don't you love this kid? I mean, I've never seen him excited. He's just calm and cool. He analyzes everything, kind of got a handle on everything, knows why he does, you know, the mistakes he made and how he's going to fix it.
And that's the driver you want behind the wheel of your race car. You know, you want somebody that stays calm in the heated situations, gives you good information, feedback, and has the talent, but the focus to just stay in the moment. That, to me, is what makes a great race car driver, and he seems to have that.
He and Blaney's a lot like that too. They're both they're really, I think they're mature way beyond their years, and they have this experience and they have this calm demeanor about them. But that's what makes them so good.
Brian Scott jumped up to 30th. You're riding with Brad Keselowski, who is fastest, 202 miles an hour into turn one.
That's getting it.
That looked pretty good right there around the bottom of 1 and 2. When you look at the movement of the car and listen to the throttle, boy, those Penske cars sound good.
Truex to the top of the chart.
Thought he looked pretty good coming around turn 4 there, right on the bottom, digging, I mean. First car in the 27s, 27.995.
Martin Truex gives bragging rights back to Toyota for this session.
Cole Pern.
Way to go, Cole.
And here comes Joey Logano to finish things up. Slower by 2/10.
Yeah, but I think they might be on that same program. I think this is their second time out on tires.
Well, remember, Truex ran a really fast lap earlier, and he had like 4, 5, 6 laps on his tires.
Well, and you know, when they said that, I didn't believe it. When Matt said that, and I thought, man, if he does put tires on, watch out, and they proved that.
Yeah. Well, just saying about Truex has 9 laps on his tires, and then you got Keselowski and Logano with 21 and 24, Austin Dillon 7, Vickers with 20, Johnson with 9, and Allmendinger with 23, Biffle with 22, Larson with 18, and Ryan Blaney with 9. So big discrepancy in tires.
All right, Trevor Bayne finishes things off. He is 20th fastest. So we end up with one Toyota in the top 10, and he's fastest. Martin Truex Jr. wins practice. Qualifying tomorrow, Xfinity final practice coming right up.